Gentleman from Illinois.
I yield myself 2 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized.
I've heard the same arguments made, or I read about them in the 20s and the 30s, that our borders are all we need to worry about, and don't worry what happens in Europe. And during the 20s and 30s, that's what we did. We pulled a blanket over our head, and a man named Hitler rearmed, and over across the Pacific, Tojo rearmed, and the results of our indifference to what was going on was millions of people died. Millions of people died. The gentleman from Texas says the only business we have is to secure our borders. I suggest our borders don't end with California or New Jersey or New York, but what happens in Europe, what happens in Asia, in today's world, never mind when we walked away from the League of Nations, in today's world, our borders are everywhere. Why do we have to do it? Because we're the strongest country in the world, and if it doesn't get done by the United States, it won't be done. Now the gentleman disparages our concern for oil. Imagine, and it doesn't take a leap of imagination, if Saddam Hussein controlled the Persian Gulf, what that would do to the economies of the world. Talk about lines at gas stations. It's very important. No, what goes on now about these inspections, the International Atomic Energy Commission conducts these inspections, and they're a joke. They're an embarrassing joke because they only look at the premises that are declared by Saddam Hussein. The UN was kicked out because they conducted real inspections. They were intrusive, and they found things over there that embarrassed the International Atomic Energy Commission. No, I just suggest to you that this is very important, that it is a challenge and a threat to civilization to have a monster like Saddam Hussein, who used chemical warfare on his own people, to have access to the facilities to create nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. We're not calling for war. We're calling for enforcement of the UN resolutions that were agreed to by Saddam.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
I have one more speaker. Who gets to close?
The gentleman from Illinois gets to close. The gentleman from Texas has 30 seconds remaining on his time.
I have one more speaker, and so when the
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Consent, the Chairman Hyde be granted an additional 5 minutes.
Objections heard.
Objections are heard, and that's just as well because I'm running out of things to say. But I have one last...
like I say, the gentleman from Texas has 30 seconds remaining on his time. The gentleman from Illinois has the right to close. Gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Speaker, very quickly, borders are important because that's what our constitutional authority gives us to defend. Our Constitution doesn't give us the authority to defend Europe or anybody else. It also is a moral authority that we have to defend ourselves and not to pretend that we're the policemen of the world. What would we say if China was in the Gulf of Mexico and said it was their oil and had troops in Texas? That is what is the equivalent of us having a navy in the Persian Gulf and saying it is our oil. Using gas on our own people, I understand a few people died at Waco, and it would happen to be illegal war gases used during that procedure.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The gentleman from Illinois.
I would yield the remaining time to the author of this very contentious resolution, Lindsey Graham, the gentleman from South Carolina.
The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of statements. Saddam Hussein kicked out the UN inspection team in 1998 in breach of the ceasefire agreement. And if you think we're moving too fast, vote no. Last time I checked is December 2001. And so if we're going too fast to make you feel comfortable, vote no. The gentleman from Texas says that Saddam Hussein's a minor threat to this country. If you believe that, vote no. But you ought to go visit the CIA and you ought to talk to our intelligence communities. He's building missiles beyond the agreement, ceasefire agreement, for a purpose, to kill people. Mr. Lantos, I admire you so much because you suffered from the politics of appeasement. This is not 1964. This is the late 30s. This is Never Chamberlain coming back. Peace in our time. What a joke. There will be no peace in our time as long as we have the politics of appeasement and let a guy like Saddam Hussein get away with building mobile biological weapon systems, larger missiles, procuring materials that could only be used in nuclear weapons. For us to sit back would be a national travesty, a world travesty. Never again should we do this. Ladies and gentlemen, the hour is at hand. Immediate action must be taken by this Congress to support our president. We should have UN weapons inspectors on the ground now. And if he says no, that is a mounting threat to this country because he is procuring, as I speak, weapons of mass destruction. Ladies and gentlemen, no more head in the sand politics. Act now or pay later, America. Let's act now to get rid of a tyrant who's abused and killed his own people, who is procuring weapons of mass destruction, substantial evidence to that effect. A failure to do so, we will pay dearly later. Have we learned anything from September the 11th? I think we have, and I've got every confidence in this body that they will reject the notion that we're moving too fast and that Saddam Hussein is a minor threat. This resolution makes common sense. It makes legal sense. It's the morally right thing to do. America's a great country, and as Mr. Chairman Hyde said, we have to act greatly when we're threatened. And this is not about any other nation. It is about us. We're the target of Saddam Hussein. Us and Israel and his Arab neighbors. Anybody who doesn't want to do business the way he does, we're a threat. Let's stand up to this dictator. No more of the politics of appeasement. Let's vote as a united body. Mr. Hyde and Lantos have shown us we can work together for the common good. You're an example for all of us to follow. Please vote. Act now, or we will pay later. Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired. All time has expired. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass House Joint Resolution 75 as amended? So many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 of those present having voted in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The joint resolution is passed, and without objection, the motion.
Mr. Speaker,
for what purpose does the gentleman rise?
On that, I respectfully request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. All those in favor of taking this vote by the yeas and nays will rise and remain standing until counted. A sufficient number having arisen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20 and the Chair's prior announcement, further proceedings on this motion will be postponed.